The Journey Beneath the System by Swapnil Saurav.
4. Falling in a swamp. The characteristic sound of boiling oil in the process of deep frying filled the flat. Wow, this looks delicious, Faiyaz exclaimed as Charvi set a bowl of vadas on the table. Bhavin instantly picked one and attempted to put it in his mouth hole. Hot! Hot! He cried out. I hope you enjoy the breakfast, guys, Charvi said enthusiastically, setting down a number of smaller bowls around the vadas. You can eat them with this. I thought it might be a good idea to have some diversity, she added. Aarav took one and dipped it in coconut chutney. Superb, he declared after taking a bite. Charvi went to the kitchen for another round while the hungrier boys started feasting. Then they all sat down together. I heard some noise this morning. What was it? Asked Faiyaz. At first I thought it was Bhavin snoring, but then I realized the sound came from outside, he said. Aarav is the one who snores, Bhavin grunted. Aarav simply took another vada, not bothering to defend himself. Oh, I was talking to some neighbors, Charvi explained. It turns out the people next door are quite friendly and up to date. They used to share the most important news every now and then with Ms. Balakrishnan, along with a cup of tea. She pointed at a bag on one of the kitchen shelves and grinned. By the way, we have tea now. So what did you find out? Faiyaz inquired. Well, began Charvi. There have been several incidents related to the mafia lately. Things like cars exploding, or people disappearing. She shivered. That must have been what Ms. Balakrishnan was talking about, said Faiyaz. Charvi nodded. Apparently, there are some big leaders behind all that, but the police don't have enough information to track them down. Or they just don't want to, Aarav suggested. It might be part of the business. What was the name of that guy we heard of in the hotel? The one behind the shooting, Bhavin intervened. Something about business, Faiyaz said. The businessman, Aarav replied. Yes. The neighbors mentioned that name too, Charvi confirmed. They said he seems to be a very powerful man, but no one knows who he is. Even the people who have been thought to work for him don't appear to know much either, she finished. There was a moment of silence in the flat, which was quickly filled with the chewing of Aarav, who seemed unaffected by the disturbing news. The other men promptly followed his example. If you don't eat any more of these, they will run out anyways, said Faiyaz, placing a vada in Charvi's hand. They are really good, Bhavin reaffirmed. After they finished eating, Charvi handed a set of keys to Bhavin. Here, Faiyaz had these made yesterday afternoon. This way you won't have to wait for one of us to open the door for you. But don't lose them, alright? Bhavin received the keys like a child getting a gift, though he frowned at the last part, offended that someone could think he could possibly lose something that important. Well, I'll see you guys later, he said, opening the door. Best of luck today, Charvi, Faiyaz said, going out after him. Take care, she told them. You too, replied Aarav. Somewhere inside the Art Institute, there was a nearly empty room with several musical instruments. A few people were rehearsing quietly on one side, a man inspected some instruments in the back, and a lone young woman sat on a chair in the corner, carefully reading some scores. Hearing footsteps, the girl turned towards the long-haired man and waved at him. Aarav, I'm glad you made it, Ria said. Aarav sat next to her, setting down a large case. Here I am, he said. And I see you brought your guitar today, she replied happily. Everyone performs better when they use their own instrument. It feels more special, doesn't it? The way you played the other day was wonderful, though, she added. I was just trying out one of the guitars they have here. It was nothing, really, he replied, shrugging. Ria disregarded his modesty with a hand gesture. Still, I think it was awesome, she insisted. I could tell you take music seriously. How long have you been playing? What songs do you know? Aarav opened the case and took out his guitar. It looked old, but was kept in excellent condition. Ria stared at it in curiosity. It doesn't look like an ordinary guitar, she pointed out. Where did you get it? If I may ask, she added in a respectful tone, suddenly becoming self-aware of her talkativeness. Aarav slid one of his hands across the exquisite-looking guitar's body. My grandfather gave it to me. When I was a child, he spent some time traveling to other countries. When he returned from his last trip, he brought this with him. It was a gift he had bought abroad for me. He knew I loved music deeply, he finished. He had been staring at his guitar dearly as he spoke, but then he smiled and closed his eyes, as if remembering that special moment. Ria blushed slightly at Aarav's sincere expression of sentiment. Wow, that's... She made a pause, at a loss for words. She looked at the empty case, which was actually not completely empty. A folder with music sheets lay there, waiting to be picked up. Oh, may I? She asked, pointing at it. Aarav opened his eyes, saw what she was referring to and nodded. The girl browsed through the scores until she found one that called her attention. I know this one, she said, putting the paper on a music stand. Would you like to play it? Sure, Aarav replied. He began playing the song Ria had chosen, pacing himself softly. After a few seconds, she started singing along. They performed together the song until the end, syncing perfectly with each other. You have a beautiful voice, Aarav told Ria after the song had ended. Thank you, she replied shyly. In that moment, they heard clapping close to them and turned. A woman had approached them while they were playing and was now clapping enthusiastically. Brilliant! The woman exclaimed. Simply brilliant. Ria blinked. Thank you, she expressed, slightly disconcerted. May I help you? Aarav asked the woman in a polite tone that hid almost entirely a tinge of cynicism. The woman took a step back, noticing the skeptic question. However, the smile on her face didn't disappear. I was admiring your talent. I believe both of you have very good musical skills. Do you perform as a duet? Ria looked at Aarav and blushed. Well, not really. Actually, this is the first time we make music together. We were just having fun with the song, that's all. We weren't even rehearsing, she blurted out, embarrassed that perhaps she was over-explaining the situation. Is that so? The woman inquired. Well, I don't mean to be intrusive, yet you are, Aarav cut her off. But I think you make a charming combination. Perhaps you should give it a try, she resumed, totally ignoring Aarav's efforts to shoo her away. There was an awkward tension in the air as Ria stared back and forth between Aarav and the woman, trying to understand his hostility. Please excuse my companion, she said dubitatively. The woman quickly reassured her. Oh, no. It is I who must apologize. It is not common for a complete stranger to suddenly show up and strike up a conversation. It is bound to come across as rude to some people, she justified. That, and I feel that you are expecting something from us, Aarav replied, crossing his arms. The woman lifted her eyebrows in surprise. An instant later, though, she smiled again. You are very perceptive, young man, she acknowledged. Ria tilted her head to the side. Is he right? She asked. In a way, the woman replied. She took a paper from her bag and offered it to Ria. I am looking for young talents to participate in a sponsorship program. A sponsorship program? Ria further inquired, piqued by her curiosity. Yes, the woman confirmed. As you know, Shamavali has recently been the target of a big wave of young men and women who have come here looking for opportunities. Sadly, the amount of these opportunities is limited, and as such, it has become increasingly difficult to compete with so many others. So, she elaborated, several companies and organizations have launched special programs to foster development. Ria's eyes were wide open, displaying interest and enthusiasm. On the contrary, Aarav's were narrowed and reluctant. That sounds amazing. Where can we get more information? Ria asked. All our contact info can be found in this leaflet, answered the woman, urging Ria to take the paper. We'll look into it and let you know if we're interested, said Aarav in a tone that clearly indicated he was ending the conversation. Indeed. Have a nice day, the woman replied, without losing even a bit of composure, and took her leave. Aarav? Ria asked. Yes. The girl looked concerned when she spoke. Don't you think that your behavior was a little uncalled for? Forgive my rudeness back there, Ria, Aarav said apologetically. That woman didn't give me a good impression. I don't trust her. Ria thought for a moment. She seemed fine to me. Either way, I had already heard of these programs before. I just hadn't had the chance to participate in one. Don't you see? This is fantastic, she said. Assuming that it's not some sort of scam, Aarav countered. Ria pouted. Oh, come on. What could that woman possibly want from us? I don't look wealthy at all, and quite frankly, neither do you. Well, if it is a sponsorship program, they really just need our talent, he replied. I have an idea. Ria cried out. Why don't we apply together? As a duet, we have more chances to draw their attention. What she said was right. There's a lot of competition right now, and I've been trying very hard to find something like this. And you've got to admit it, we do make a good combination. Please, she begged. If it doesn't work, we can just forget about it. But if it does, this may really be our chance to shine. Aarav remained silent, staring at the young woman. She was so excited about it. Finally, he nodded. Fine then. Let's hope you're right, he said. Yes, Ria shouted, and gave him a big, strong hug. Aarav was initially paralyzed by this, but something stirred inside him as he slowly returned the embrace. Exiting a building, Charvi let out a deep sigh. I never thought this would be so hard, she said to no one in particular. The street she was on was nearly empty. I mean, I knew it wouldn't be easy, but it almost seems like they have something against me. Wasn't that plain weird? I finally got to participate in a casting. They said I did well. Everything was going great. Then suddenly, in the middle of the interview, the man receives a call. And after that, he just said it wouldn't be possible for me to continue because I didn't meet all the requirements. What is that supposed to mean? A lie, that's what it is, she yelled. A child that was passing by in that moment jumped at the scream, and his mother promptly pulled him away from Charvi, muttering something under her breath. Ah! She exclaimed, covering her mouth. I hadn't realized I was talking out loud. A voice behind Charvi brought her back from her thoughts. Excuse me. She turned around to see a short, fat man carrying a briefcase. You are Charvi, aren't you? The little man asked, fixing his clothes nervously. Yes, I am, she replied. And you are? My name is not really important. I'm here on behalf of my boss, he answered. Charvi stared at him with a strange look on her face. Okay. And your boss is? The man looked surprised, as if he wasn't expecting that line of questioning. Well, his name is not important either. I'm sure you don't know him, he blurted out. The important thing is that you're a model in the making. Am I right? Charvi studied her interlocutor. He was dressed like a worker, but neither his clothing nor his behavior was particularly professional. "And how do you know that?" she inquired, a little more defensive this time. The man gasped. "Right. I should have started with that," he murmured to himself. "Yes. You see, I work for an organization that seeks alliances with talented individuals for mutual benefit. We have followed your case and proposal from my boss," he said. "Followed my case? How?" The man reacted to every question as though he was being physically hit by them. "Well, our organization is connected to several databases, and we receive and filter information about the potential candidates for our offers," he explained. "And what kind of proposal is it that you mentioned?" "Basically, we look for collaborators to complete small jobs for us, and in exchange we provide aid with their professional development using our ample infrastructure," the man answered, hoping she would finally be satisfied. Charvi opened her mouth to ask another question, but she saw a hint of a grimace forming in the man's face and decided to give him a break. He seemed to be new at his job. Perhaps he was not used to talking to other people and was afraid of making mistakes. But it was definitely odd that a worker from such a large organization as he claimed would be so dubious. "Well," she said after a while, choosing her words slowly, "thank you for your offering, but I think I'll pass." The man looked at her for a moment, then nodded energetically and smiled. "I understand," he said. He put his hand in his pocket and withdrew a small business card. "Please take it," the man asked humbly. Charvi took it. "It's the least I can do," she thought to herself. "Keep it with you in case you change your mind. I know it's difficult to rise in a big city like Shamavali, so if you ever need our placement services, give us a call." After these words, the man made a deep reverence and turned to leave. Charvi stared at the card. It only had a phone number on it. "Strange," she said. She took a look at the card's back. There was a lone, stylish symbol on it. Charvi lifted her face to ask one last question. "Hey, what?" But the man was nowhere to be seen. "Wow, he really disappeared fast," she said in surprise. Faiyaz stood in the middle of the street, looking around. I have to make so many turns to reach the flat. There's got to be a shorter way," he said. He saw a narrow alley between a pair of buildings. "There!" He pointed and walked straight towards it. Round the next corner, two men in suits observed him. "Is that him?" one of them asked. "Definitely. This one is going to be easier than we thought," the other one said, and they both sniggered.